So anyway, good morning. So I think the two topics that we have extensively discussed over the last couple of years, I think no guesses to basically like artificial intelligence being one of those. And the other one, I think everyone here will agree with me that it has been zero trust access. No matter where you go, no matter where you are actually like having the technical discussions, I think zero trust becomes like one of the topics that's always discussed. So it also emphasizes on the importance of basically like zero trust and its relevance to our security controls of today. So without going too much into basically what zero trust means, we'll actually, over the period of questions, that we'll obviously go through the details of zero trust access. What is it? Is it really a myth? Is it really important to what we do today? And we'll also go to what does it take for us to basically implement zero trust. So to start with, Bhavesh, very briefly, do you really think that zero trust is actually a myth, or do you think that it's very relevant to our current security stack?
Okay, good morning everyone. And again, I think everybody understands this, and to me it's to each his own, right? And I'll speak specific to our organization. Again, we heard Mark speaking about how cloud is one of the most vulnerable. There are other vectors as well. But zero trust as a concept is the need of the hour. We all say that, but while you can balance productivity with it, right? Because whenever we see a zero trust implementation, we see that the business or the users keep coming back to balance it out in a way that, they want security, but at the same time, they want that ease of business. So in my view and in my organization, where we have 4 different business verticals, we have a multi-cloud environment, we also have a lot of on-prem. And zero trust is not just across the network, right, for us. It's across user access, it's across cloud, it's across all the other vectors which are, which can be a threat surface. So to me, yes, it is required, but at the same time, balancing is where we need the right tools and the right approach.
Thank you so much, Bhavesh, for articulating it so well. It's, to summarize, basically, it's all about that every organization will in some way or shape implement zero trust access. It depends on the scale and the size. So, Priyanshu, moving to you, right? So again, the same question. So do you think it is a myth, or do you think it's relevant to your organization?
I think, first of all, thank you so much. And just one disclaimer, now these views are my own and nothing relevant to the company. Okay, so coming to your question, Hilal, I think zero trust is the way of life going forward, and this is something we used to follow since ages. I mean, we have always spoken about network segmentation, but now we are saying, let's have micro segmentation because we want to reduce the attack surface. We have always been speaking about access management, but now we are saying, let's validate the access, from where the access coming in from. Is the user based in India, or he is based in a different geography? Is there an impossible travel? It is about continuous verification, and it works on the principle of don't trust but verify. You just can't trust anyone, and constantly validate the underlying posture.
Thank you, Priyanshu. I think that's important, basically, like never trusting and making sure that there is continuous verification of access across your application infrastructure and other assets. So changing it slightly, so Tanin, so what do you think, like in terms of traditional access control methodologies and zero trust access, what do you think is more effective? Do you think zero trust is more effective, or do you think our traditional controls actually still work as well as they are?
Thank you for having me. Well, I'll just give you a story behind it. So I was just speaking to someone, and I just asked that, I'm going to talk about zero trust. Then he said, what is zero trust? I said, the name as it suggests, trust no one. Because of the fact that I don't believe you. I mean, to explain someone, it's like, I don't believe you whether you should have access or not. So he said me that, that is what was going across. I said, that is not what was going across. We were giving access, and we are forgetting how long we are giving it and why we are giving it. So to summarize and to make sure that only we give access to role-based access, and then making sure that individual should have access to certain application, or you can talk about database, or you can talk about any folders, whatever it may be. So you give access for a specific period of time, and you have access, and your work is completed, you are thrown out of it. That's what is all about zero trust. And to make your life simple, it's a need of the hour, and we should have it, because we don't know what kind of malicious activity can happen after you give access for for a longer period of time, and not just a certain period of time.
Yeah, I think it's about basically the how does it relate to an organizational access control methodologies and what is appropriate sizing for them. Um, so apart from that, I think Simarpreet, so in terms of the effectiveness of zero trust access, do you think it has improved, or do you think it's basically just a gimmick of marketing or something like that?
So first of all, good morning, everyone. I would relate to all three of you and your points. And I would say let's go back to our daily life at our homes. And we have people who are also homemakers. We have domestic helps coming into our house every day. We manage their access in our house, and also for how long they have access to a particular area in our house, what they're going to do, what activities they are trying to do. The same goes within our organizations also. Like Tanin said, we manage privileges. And it's not just about managing privileges, but for how long you have those privileges, that's matter. Bhavesh spoke about microsegmentation, how we divide things into smaller parts so that they become much more manageable and don't spread from one part to other. So, and third part, what was said by about managing the identities and accesses to the users and the devices that they are using. So I think those three things become very critical when it comes to cloud infrastructure.
One of the
Bilal,
reasons.
I just had an analogy, right? Just to play the devil's advocate. Like you talked about home, right? So when I go to my apartment, there is a guard waiting there. And every single day, if he asks me for my identity and flat number, I would be irked for sure. You would be too, right? So that's where I was trying to say that it is required, but productivity too is important. Because every day I won't spend 5 minutes at the gate validating myself. And if I go out 4 times a day, it's the same thing, right? So that's what the business view is. So while IT and InfoSec want to implement zero trust in everything, just to secure ourselves, but that's the view which I was trying to say earlier as well.
I think I also resonate with Bhavesh, So during my early days of my career, my mentor always used to tell me, you have to build convenient controls. And he gave an example that, people are never going to climb the overhead bridges. Can you not have overhead bridges for the cars and have an underpass for the, for the people walking by, right? So similarly, I think somewhere when we speak about zero trust and when we speak about some of these things, it is like a continuous process. You don't block the access. Today, when you look at Office 365, right, your password has changed or password expired or you need to put an OTP. You still have an access for a couple of minutes, right? Till the time it gives you a final warning and it just logs you out, right? It keeps prompting you for password. It allows the user to do the work, right? But after some time, it will just log you out after it has reached the threshold. I think similar things are expected from the solutions around zero trust.
Yeah, so Simarpreet, again to you, right? So we discussed like different things that make up zero trust. Like so, there are different technical requirements like microsegmentation, multi-factor authentication, identity and access management. All of these skills are, required for us to have a successful implementation of zero trust access. So what are the unique challenges that you feel that because most of these things are not very straightforward. So it requires a tremendous amount of investment in terms of the effort. Like it requires you to basically prioritize security controls one over the other. So what are the challenges that you see customers facing when they want to implement zero trust?
I think the biggest challenge that we have is our biggest strength also, and that's manpower. So how we automate that part more so that we have less dependency on people and more of automation, and see how things can be allowed as well as revoked automatically rather than manual intervention.
So a couple of things, right? So one is basically you mentioned a skill set. The skill set may be basically something that need to be acquired, or it may not be available. So it's more important to basically have that automated or something like that. And Bhavesh mentioned about the flexibility. There will be challenge in terms of maintaining the user access. User experience may actually suffer because you implement more controls or things like that, right? So are those, Tanin, to you, so is it something that you feel that is a real challenge that, and how do we overcome them?
So I see some other way, because see, as a DPO, I have to play a role where I have to make sure that individuals' data is protected, and we should not do over surveillance of it. So if you're putting a zero trust on everything, and as you are correctly said, and I wanted to add that point of time, that we should not make sure that we are collecting those kind of information from an individual, and then we are putting a surveillance to it, which we should not be doing it. So governance comes into picture on the very same time. So to answer your question, so we do see it, I think you're pointing out to the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the challenge is the governance part. Being a DPO, I have to make sure that what I'm trying to do is in line to all the regulations that we have, whether you're talking about GDPR, CCPA, DPDP, it's one of the things that will come across. So if you are taking my data and you're putting a surveillance to it, take it on the need basis. Do not take it forever, so that I have not given something like, and I've given a one-shot signature saying that all my data which you are collecting and you are processing, it should be forever. So governance plays an important role at that point of time. And as an individual who has to be a road blocker, I would not say road blocker, rather say as an enabler for a business, I do have to see the positive side as the negative side, and have to put up my standpoint at that point of time, saying that this is okay, this is not okay, and that's how I answered your question.
Perfect. So, so the challenge will be always like evolving, right? So with respect to basically the span of the application that you want to basically control, and having continuous monitoring and things like that is going to be important. So, Priyanshu, moving to you. So you mentioned earlier that core component or the core philosophy behind zero trust access is basically never trust, always verify. So challenge is that how do we actually ensure that? How do we ensure that, okay, we always, basically we do not actually have that strict control over access.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, how do we make sure that, okay, we verify it all the time?
Yeah, okay. So from a practitioner's view, let me just give you a perspective. Now, let's say if you look at the Active Directory, you know, all of us know what an Active Directory is. It has various components. It has the device, it has the user identity, it has the admin logons, it has the computer machines, right? It has printers and all of it. Now, with every component, right, every time you go and authenticate on the Active Directory, can you validate where is the authentication request coming from? Point number one. Point number two, can you trust whether the device that it is reporting, it is actually a trusted device or not, right? And whether the posture of the device is safe or not, right? So these are a couple of things that one should start. I think the easiest way from a practitioner's perspective is to move towards a zero trust network access. That's the easiest way. A lot of companies have done it. We have also done it. Second thing is when it comes to identity and access management, right? You exactly need to know that which user is getting authenticated at which place. Let's say if you have Office 365 services, you will have users being authenticated on Azure AD. But if you have some on-premise application, you have it authenticated on an on-premise AD. Are you able to do the same level of verification for somebody who gets authenticated for an Office 365 app vis-a-vis an on-premise application, right? Third thing, an admin user who's coming in, is he coming from a trusted device? Is there a way to validate that the device that has been assigned to him is the same device where he is coming from, and the posture of the device is up to the mark, you know? Using a PAM solution, can you do a device binding? I think these are small steps that one would take to ensure a zero trust framework can be implemented in the environment, and it ensures that identities or data is not being misused in terms of access, in terms of authentication, and it is validated at all the times. And you always have dark web monitoring, you always have some of these things happening, attack surface management, which clearly tells you that what is being exposed to the internet. Let's say if you see an admin user on the dark web, please go ahead and block it in the first place, you know. and after that take up an action. So that's a monitoring piece of it. So if you combine all of these things based on the org structure and the architecture, I think it would help you implement the zero trust principles.
So continuing with that, Priyanshu to Sam, I think if I had to summarize that, it would be like, we want to basically maintain absolute visibility into our infrastructure, who's coming in, from where they are coming, is it trusted, not trusted, things like that. We want to make sure that, okay, we assess the effectiveness of the systems through different tools and processes, right? And we keep on basically like monitoring the IAM throughout the basically upstream. So what is the simplest way of achieving all these three things?
If it was that simple, obviously the attackers would have always been taken care. But I think it's a journey. It's a step-by-step approach. Every organization has a different path towards achieving it. It also depends on your underlying application. See, at the end of the day, in today's world, two things really matter: identity and data, right? Which means if you can protect your identity and secure your data, I think you achieve it. I think it's a journey. Every organization will have a different path of achieving it. When I was with a previous company, it was done in a different way. Today, when I'm looking at Zero Trust, I'm doing it in a different way. It also depends on where your crown jewels are. Today, a lot of applications go on the SaaS, right? So, do you have monitoring on SaaS? Direct monitoring, the answer is no. But can you do an indirect monitoring using attack surface management, monitoring those URLs or something? The answer is yes.
Sure. Thank you so much, Priyanshu, for that. So, Bhavesh, coming to you. So, what are the different strategies what are the different strategies organizations can adopt to basically implement zero trust access?
Basically what?
What are the different strategies organizations can adopt to basically implement zero trust access?
So like Priyanshu rightly mentioned, to me it is, again, leveraging AI. We talk a lot about AI. The next session probably is around AI. So what, according to me, has happened is, earlier we were all centralized before the lockdown and before the COVID. COVID changed everything. My admin is sitting somewhere in Singapore. There's one guy in London. They are all coordinating, right? So PIM and PAM became more important, but those are very traditional way of identifying. So he said identity and data, these are the crux. But if we can leverage AI, we can just not do one vector, right? User behavior is one vector. You can validate whether it's the same user. He said posture check on the machines. That's the second vector. So you have to combine all of this and use some intelligence, which earlier was very easy while you were all in the same room and your admin worked in shifts and you could trace back everything using the PIM or PAM. But now it has become exceedingly difficult. So the strategy is simple. You just can't rely on one tool, and hence having some sort of an intelligence which binds together the data from your network, the data from your end user, Active Directory, whatever is your security layer where you're validating the user identity. That is, I believe, the first step to the strategy.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that helps organizations basically adopt zero trust, and Simar, feel free to disagree with me, but I think it's important to basically do the discovery of your environment. What exactly is your user profiles? What kind of authentication methods and protocols you are going to be using? And if there is any scope for basically like, if I had to kind of like put it very directly, right? So you have single sign-on, you have multi-factor authentication and things like that actually going to be running. So what is their compatibility? What are the integration, integration challenges with adopting zero trust access?
So I would say, if I heard it right, you were asking about the integration challenges.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I would say it's more, firstly, the biggest challenge from is the organizational point of view is the overall process that we follow. Second becomes the behavioral things within the organization, how people are taking that. Because as human beings, our first tendency is to trust everyone. And how we change that behavior, how we change the overall process that our organization follows. And then the systems and the processes becomes the third step in the overall change, I would say. What Bhavesh was referring to, the AI part, we see advantages of AI, but it could possess different challenges altogether going down the line somewhere, and we don't know what will happen out of it. Yesterday, my friend from Czech, Force Point was talking about AI being the fastest growth engine. It started with internet. Uh, Before internet, the only way of committing a financial crime was to rob a bank or rob someone. With internet, there were 20 other channels that opened up. So the new technology will come with new challenges. It's just how ready we are to tackle those. And I think people, process, and then the technology will be the third thing that will help us enable into that.
That's perfect. So I think yeah, now it works. so, so yeah, I do believe that, like people, process, technologies, and making sure that all of them work together is the key to success in the projects, right? So then in coming to you, right, so you earlier mentioned basically like one of the advantages of having zero trust access is that it helps with us becoming compliant and helps with the regulations, right? So how? I mean, how does it do that?
Okay, so we try to understand a pain point and we get resolved out of it. The pain point is giving access to individuals who should not be having access. Now, how do we do that? The audit is something that we can have it. Regular audit can tell you that even after what you have done, is that perfectly fine on that application or on the database or on the folders that you are referring to. So I believe that apart from putting a solution out there, you also need to make sure that if the solution is working perfectly onto it, you have to audit on a regular period of time, 6 months, 1 year. So and get it vetted via external auditor also. Why not by internal and by external once more to make sure that what you're doing is perfect and then you minimize the risk. We cannot mitigate the risk. A company who can mitigate the risk to zero is like, don't use IT system. Use everything on hard copies. Don't. So that's not possible at this point of time. And I believe that you need to, we cannot mitigate, we can minimize the risk. And how we can minimize? We have various solutions in the market. Zero trust is one of the framework that we are seeing at this point of time. I believe that if in case we have to drill down properly and in short regularly on audits and take the call.
Yeah, one of the things that coming from fintech, coming from basically like bio industry and things like that. So one of the things that's important is basically access reviews and things like that, right? Access reviews and things like this, because in every audit, access review and identity is actually always focused on two different orders and regulations. So it's heavily focused, right? And one of the things that Zero Trust probably and basically simplifies is having it centralized, because you get a single pane of glass to basically look at the identities and where they're coming from and what the risks attached to that. So it becomes easier for us to explain it to the auditors or regulatory agencies on exactly what we are basically doing. So I just think that Simrpreet basically like Mark earlier mentioned the 555s, right? So he mentioned basically detection, then triage, and then response, 5 seconds required for each of them, right?
Yes.
So I would love to know from you, like, so does Zero Trust actually play a significant part in that, in terms of basically achieving those metrics?
Actually, very good point, Hilal. So yes, we do a very critical role in the overall your cloud infrastructure security when it comes to zero trust. Like if I look at all the points made by you guys, those are very critical when it comes to cloud infrastructure or your container infrastructure. There's no tracking on that. So how you manage accesses, privileges. Taneen made a point about continuous monitoring. That is the key to how you are able to look into what's happening within that infrastructure. So yes, there are technology pieces from Cisco, from other vendors which can help. But like how Priyanshu said, not only one technology will solve every problem. So it has to be a combination of multiple, again, people, process, and multiple technologies to attain zero trust. I believe yesterday there was a discussion happening regarding putting security at the board level. The challenge, and you guys face it day in, day out, is to make board understand what security is. But with things like zero trust and other, which the board and the business owners can understand very easily, I think it guarantees a seat for the CISO at the board level. So.
Thank you so much, Simarpreet. So I think we are almost close to the time. So I will give 1 minute for everyone to basically summarize the Zero Trust Access future. So do you think that it will still continue to remain relevant? And if so, what is the priority for adopting a Zero Trust Access?
Okay, so like I said, priority is to each his own, right? You mentioned about the crown jewel. So what are you looking at application, network, or even users? So identifying first the applications, I think, is the crux because the data lies behind it. So I would prioritize my applications first, give access to, like he said, we have been following it since ages now, that what we call as need to know basis. So that'll be the first step to prioritization, depending on what applications you're trying to protect or what data you're trying to protect.
Yeah.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, every organization is different. If you focus on identity and data and see how you can protect it, I think that's the first step to start with. Probably it could start with the network, or it could start with the identity management, or it could start with real-time monitoring on all your critical admin activities, or it could be dark web monitoring. Every organization is different. So based on your architecture, these could be a couple of steps to start the Zero Trust journey.
Tanya?
So I work on PPT model, people process technology. Technology is Zero Trust. It is not technology. It is rather a process because it's a framework. You check your framework, build technologies onto it, and you train your people how to do it. So by working on these 3 letters, PPT, you are solving your results.
Yeah, Simarpreet?
I would just go, I agree to every point you guys made, and I'd just go one step back and start with the infrastructure level, understand what is there, and then take steps to secure all those paths and manage privileges, identities. I used to work in I'll not name them, but I used to work in a very large ITSM company, and after me resigning, I used to get salary for 4 months because nobody revoked my ID in the payroll system. So I don't have a complaints about this. I got money, but...
So yeah, to basically summarize the entire conversation, I think it's not going to be like something that will go away, right? So Zero Trust Access will continue to remain relevant. So there is a reason why Zero Trust Access actually became such a prominent topic. So when we were actually accessing systems earlier, so traditional controls like VPNs, like basic authentication worked really, really well. So, but over the period of time, so our attack surface area actually increased due to the adoption of SaaS services and authentication methods that we do not normally control. So it's very incredibly important to basically have visibility across that. And the only way we can have visibility across that is through Zero Trust Access. And if we do want to achieve basically like never trust, always verify basically methodology, it's not going to be through the traditional controls that we actually use. So it's always going to be relevant, it's going to be important, and almost every organization that I actually know about so has either adopted Zero Trust Access or they're in the process of adopting it. So with that, I will conclude the conversation, and if you don't mind, I would love to see if there are any questions that anybody, maybe a couple of questions at most.
We won't be able to take up questions, so just in case. Okay, one question, very quickly, if at all. Yay.
Very well.
Yay,
So,
they are on my side.
all right, that's perfect. So it means that we have done a great job. Thank you so much.
You
And let's
definitely have, but
yeah.
they'll make sure that they speak to you all whenever they get
Sure,
a
yeah,
chance
of course.
outside. Yeah. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You got to be on the stage. A for the group photograph. B for the certificates for planting the tree that also we'll be presenting to you digitally. But first up, let's have the group photograph. The happy chappy group photograph. Where are the applauses? Please bring it up more.